Sometimes the house feels too big. The silence that once brought rest now feels heavy. It's not just the lack of sound, it's the absence. The empty chair in the living room, the extra plate on the table, the routine that no longer has a name. For many, loneliness crept in quietly, sometimes after someone left, other times without any specific event, just a gradual drifting away from the world. And in that emptiness, many begin to ask, is this how it's going to be from now on? If you've made it this far, maybe you're asking that question too. And the truth is, you're not alone, not in your pain and not in your desire to start again. This video doesn't offer ready-made solutions. It doesn't ignore your story, nor does it try to erase what you've lived. On the contrary, it's a safe space to acknowledge that pain exists, but that it can also clear the way for something new. Because even after loss, even after 60, 70, or 80, life is still beating inside you. Loneliness can feel like a full stop, but often it's just a comma, a pause before a new sentence begins. And in this moment, all you need is someone to say, there's still time to feel, to create, to connect, still time to be surprised by what life can offer, even after everything it's taken from you. That's what this video is about the possibility of finding hope, and about the quiet, powerful truth that you are not alone. The reality of loneliness. After 60, when silence feels heavy, there is a kind of loneliness that screams and another that only whispers. It doesn't always arrive with tears or despair. Sometimes it shows up as routine, as coffee made for one, as a phone that doesn't ring, as Sundays that stretch on too long. For many older adults, especially after the loss of a spouse or growing distance from their children, loneliness settles in quietly, and by the time they realize it, it has already taken up residence. It's not a lack of strength or will, it's that the bonds have slowly unraveled. Friends from younger days have fallen ill or passed away. Work responsibilities have ended, and over time, the invitations have become fewer. The people around seem to move on with their lives, while yours feels like it's standing still. Studies show that chronic loneliness in people over 60 can affect more than just emotional well-being. It can also impact physical health. It increases the risk of depression, insomnia, cognitive decline, and even cardiovascular disease. But for those who feel it, it goes far beyond statistics. It's a kind of pain that's hard to put into words, a longing for what was and for what could have been. There is also grief, not only for the loss of a partner, but for the end of a chapter, an identity, a role once held with pride, wife, husband, mother, father, professional. Suddenly, the question arises, who am I now? Emma, age 74, shares. After he passed, I just stopped. It was like I forgot how to live. The days would come, but I wasn't moving along with them. This kind of silence, when left unacknowledged, turns into disconnection, and disconnection becomes fear. Fear of starting over, fear of trying something new, fear of being rejected. That's why the first step is to recognize it. Yes, loneliness exists, but it doesn't define who you are or what your life can be from this point forward. And when we are able to look at that emptiness honestly, we begin to realize something essential. Loneliness is not a life sentence. It is a passage. And every passage, no matter how long it seems, has another side. Loneliness is not a destiny, it's a moment. There's a quiet idea that settles in over time. The thought that my time has passed. That starting over is something for the young, for those who still have plans, energy, dreams. But that isn't true. And maybe the biggest turning point begins right there. In the moment we realize that loneliness is not a destiny. It's a moment. Moments are like seasons. They arrive, they stay, they change. Sometimes winter lasts longer than expected, but it never lasts forever. Life has its own cycles, and none of them are final, no matter how overwhelming they may feel. Loneliness hurts more when we believe it's permanent, but when we begin to see it as a phase, not a life sentence, something inside us starts to shift. Small, almost unnoticeable, but it shifts. That doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means understanding that feeling lonely is not the same as being condemned to loneliness. There are ways back, bridges to rebuild, or to build from scratch, new connections waiting to be formed. Sometimes the first step comes from the outside, but often it begins within. João, 76, lost his wife and spent months withdrawn. One day, he decided to reply to a good morning message in a neighborhood group. I thought, it won't change anything. But it did. That reply led to a conversation. The conversation became an invitation. The invitation turned into a friendship. Loneliness is real, but it's not the only truth. There is also possibility. And it begins with one simple thought. What if it's not too late? It's not too late to laugh, to create, to listen, to be heard. It's not too late to feel that life can still surprise you. This shift in perspective is what opens the door to what comes next. Because when we accept that loneliness is a moment, not the end of the road, we're finally able to take the next step. And that step leads us to the real paths for starting over, rediscovering purpose. When life changes suddenly, whether through the loss of a loved one, retirement, or growing distance from children, many people ask themselves, now what? What am I here for? That question, though painful, is valid. Because purpose isn't just about what we do, it's about what makes us feel alive. After 60, many routines that once structured daily life begin to fade, and with them comes a sense of emptiness. But it's precisely in that space that something new can emerge. Rediscovering purpose doesn't mean going back to who you were. It means discovering who you can be now. Sometimes, purpose reveals itself through caring for others. Many older adults find new meaning through volunteer work, visiting a shelter, telling stories to children, offering companionship to someone else who feels alone. These are simple gestures, but they can be life-changing. Charlotte, 71, became a widow and fell into a quiet grief. One day, she was invited to join a group that made weekly visits to hospitalized patients. At first, I only went because my neighbor insisted, but when I saw that woman's eyes light up at my good morning, I realized I still had so much to give. Others find purpose in community activities, helping organize a neighborhood event, joining the local health council, volunteering with a church or residents association. All of these create a sense of belonging. And belonging heals. The key isn't in grand accomplishments, but in the feeling of being useful, of being part of something greater than your own pain. It's not just about keeping busy, it's about awakening the heart, about engaging with the world in a new way, with the wisdom that only years can offer. Rediscovering purpose is like rekindling a dormant flame. It was always there. It just needed a bit of air, a bit of care, and a bit of courage to burn brightly again. From church to community centers, loneliness isn't healed by physical presence alone. It's healed through connection. And one of the most powerful ways to rebuild bonds is by allowing yourself to be among people who are going through something similar. Groups and gatherings, whether in person or online, may seem simple, even intimidating at first, but they are open doors to a new way of living. In the United States, many community centers, public libraries, and senior support organizations offer free or low-cost social groups. These are spaces where people talk, learn, dance, listen, and most importantly, belong. For those who have lost emotional ties, rediscovering that sense of community brings deep relief. Mr. Gerald, 69, shares that he joined a senior activity group at his local library at the invitation of his granddaughter. I thought it would just be another way to pass the time. But there, I met people just like me, widowers, retirees, people who were also afraid of the silence. We started talking, and I realized I still know how to laugh. Beyond libraries and community centers, many churches, temples, and cultural centers host regular events, breakfast gatherings, group walks, discussion circles, choir rehearsals, arts and crafts. And the most beautiful part, many of these events are organized by other older adults, people who once felt alone too, and decided to create something for themselves and others. For those who prefer something more private, there are also online groups on social media, messaging apps, or platforms specifically designed for the 60-plus community. Groups for widows, book clubs, spiritual gatherings, or connected grandparents. When used with intention, technology can also bring people closer together. The hardest part is often taking the first step. But most of the time, that fear fades with the first smile received, the first gesture of welcome. Groups don't replace the bonds that were lost, but they do create new ones. And sometimes all someone needs to start again is a place where they can simply be. New hobbies and lifelong learning. Starting over can also mean discovering something you've never experienced before. Many people believe that learning is only for the young, but the truth is, the human brain has an incredible capacity for adaptation, even after 60, 70, or 80 years of age. And more than that, the soul can bloom with the new, no matter how old you are. Returning to old hobbies or trying entirely new activities can breathe fresh life into your days. Painting, dancing, gardening, learning a musical instrument, cooking, sewing, writing, photography. All of these can become sources of joy, self-expression, and often connection with others. Ms. Loretta, 73, says she had never had the courage to dance in public. After losing her husband, her days felt long and heavy. One day, she saw a flyer for a free dance class at a local community center. At the first class, I just watched. The second time, I took 2 steps. By the third, I was in tears. I realized my body still knows how to smile. Today, Loretta dances twice a week. She's made new friends, rediscovered her sense of self, and feels more alive than she has in years. Technology has also opened the door to learning opportunities that once seemed out of reach. Many older adults are now exploring the digital world, learning how to use smartphones, social media, video calls, and even apps for games, reading, or learning new languages. It's a way not just to stay up to date, but to stay connected with children, grandchildren, and distant friends. It's not about simply passing the time. It's about giving that time meaning, doing something just for yourself, for the pleasure, the curiosity, the joy of it. Discovering a new hobby is like opening a window in a room that's been closed for a long time. The light coming in is the same, but what it shines on can be entirely new. Reconnecting with the body and the soul. When life slows down, we often forget about the body. It slips into the background, treated as if it's merely the support system for the mind. But the body holds memories, desires, limits, and strength. And when we reconnect with it, something within us also begins to realign. It's as if the soul quietly says, "Thank you." Caring for the body isn't just about physical health. It's a way of telling yourself, "I still matter." Walking slowly through a park, stretching at home, taking deep conscious breaths, learning a gentle yoga or Tai Chi sequence, these may seem like small things, but they are practices that restore the bond between the body and presence, between life and desire. Mr. Raymond, 78, went through a deep depression after losing his wife. He lost his appetite and stopped going out. A neighbor invited him to walk around the block twice a week. At first, I went out of obligation, but then I started looking forward to it. My body woke up, and with it, the will to live. Reconnecting with the body also means practicing self-care. Dressing with intention, getting a haircut, moisturizing the skin, dancing alone in your room, savoring your meals. These small rituals remind you, you are still you. You are still worthy of attention and tenderness. And along with the body, the soul also needs space. Spirituality, whether religious or not, offers comfort and meaning. Many people find peace in moments of prayer, meditation, reflective reading, or simply in the quiet act of observing nature. The silence that once felt heavy now begins to embrace. There's no need to rush. The body teaches the pace of the present. The soul teaches the value of presence. And when the two begin to listen to each other, body and soul, something begins to bloom. The feeling of being whole again, even after so much, even after everything. Because sometimes the true restart begins within, in a step, a breath, a moment of care for who you are. Real stories of starting over. It's not too late to feel again. After living with pain for so long, it can be hard to believe that something new, something beautiful, light, and meaningful could still happen. But it does. And often it happens not when we're waiting for it, but when we simply allow ourselves to be open. Real stories of starting over are living reminders that time is not the enemy. Time is fertile ground. With the right care, it can bloom. Below are two stories that show it's not too late to feel and to truly live again. Mia, 72 years old, widowed for 7 years. For 3 years, Mia left the house only when absolutely necessary. Her husband's absence felt like a constant presence. One day, after much insistence from a friend, she agreed to attend a theater performance at the local community center. I sat in the last row, near the exit, ready to leave at any moment. But she stayed. She came back the next week. Eventually, she joined the group. Today, Mia performs in small plays for the community and says the stage is where she found her voice again. I haven't forgotten my husband, but now he's no longer the end of my story. He's a part of it. James, 68 years old, retired and recently divorced. James was always a quiet man. After his divorce, he withdrew even more. His children lived far away, and silence became the norm. Then one day, a flyer on the library bulletin board caught his eye. Men's book group, 60 plus. I thought it would be boring, but there, I heard life stories just like mine, and for the first time I felt truly understood. Today, James participates in 2 groups and has started writing his own short stories. I thought I had already lived it all. Now I see I still have chapters left to write. These stories are not the exception. They are possible. What they have in common isn't the absence of pain. It's the willingness to welcome something new, even in fear, even with doubt. And maybe in hearing these stories, you'll realize it's not too late to live yours too. Because the heart, no matter how scarred, still knows when something or someone comes to touch it again. You still have chapters to write. Maybe you're hearing all of this and thinking, it's beautiful, but it won't happen for me. That doubt is natural. When pain settles in for a long time, it convinces us that nothing new can grow. But there's something no loss can ever take away, the ability to begin again, even slowly, even with fear. Starting over doesn't mean erasing the past. It means making space for the future. Not a grand future full of plans and promises, but a simple possible one where each small action is a step forward, getting out of bed and opening the window, sending a message, going back to that place you stopped visiting, accepting an invitation, making one, looking for a group, letting yourself try. Each of these actions is a new sentence in the book of your life, because yes, you still have chapters to write. And those chapters don't have to be filled with extraordinary accomplishments. They can be about quiet reconciliations, unexpected laughter, unlikely friendships, small acts of daily courage. The extraordinary, after a certain age, often hides in the simplest things. You've already survived so much. Loss, silence, waiting. That alone makes you strong. And now, maybe it's time to turn that strength into movement. Not to forget what's behind you, but to honor everything that's still ahead. It's not too late. It's not too little. It's not meaningless. It's your story, and it's still being written. Share, connect, begin again. If this video touched you, even just a little, then it has already fulfilled its purpose. Because sometimes A new beginning starts like this, with a word, a memory, an idea that quietly lingers in the heart. Maybe you don't yet know what your next step will be, and that's okay. Just considering the possibility of moving out of loneliness means you're already on your way. Now, an invitation. Don't keep this just to yourself. There are thousands of others feeling exactly what you're feeling right now, but in silence. Sharing this video could be the start of a new conversation. It could be a gesture of care for someone you love, or even for someone you barely know, but who needs to hear these words just as much as you did. You can leave a comment below, share your story, or simply write, "Me too," because sometimes all we need is to know that we're not alone, and you're not. Share, connect, begin again, because love, connection, and hope also grow when they're shared.